Hi, my name is Jacob George, and today we're talking about greater the sinner, greater the right to my mercy. These were words spoken to Saint Faustina by Jesus. In the last video, we talked about our Father who loves each one of us. Saint Pope John Paul II said, "Mercy is love's second name." Today we'll get a glimpse of that mercy. Reading from the book of Luke, chapter 15, verse 11 onwards, Jesus said, "There was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me.' And he divided the property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country. And there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have had more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger. I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants.' And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion, and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Bring quickly the best robe, and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate." There's so much that we could talk here about the father and the younger son. That younger son is you and me. It is interesting to see that the younger son asked for his share of the property that was coming to him. Typically, the son would get the share of the property once the father has died. And essentially, that's what the younger son considered his father to be dead, to take his property, his share of the property. And that's how you and I act when we turn away from God, taking our share of the property, all that God has given, and wander away. But God, in His mercy and love, allows us to make a choice out of free will. You will also see that when the younger son had squandered all his property, there was a severe famine. The severe famine in your heart and mind is a longing for God, not one that is just longing for earthly food to satisfy our hunger. But as is written in the book of Matthew, man does not live on bread alone, but from every word that comes from the mouth of God. You and I have a longing deep in our hearts that no amount of pleasure, money, power, fame could ever satisfy. In fact, even having all of it just leaves us a little more empty, like in a severe famine. But this young man, this young son, like each one of us, made a choice. He realized that his life isn't complete with what he had, but is missing what he could have had with his father. And he decides to turn to his father, even if it meant working as a hired laborer for his father. And you'd also see that this younger son would rather eat what the pigs ate. And that's what we tend to do when we are drenched in sin and don't want to get out. But we have a choice, just like the younger son, to repent and to turn towards God. Repentance isn't one that takes us into greater misery, but in fact is the medicine to our misery. The younger son returns to his father, and it's said in the book of Luke that the father saw the son from a distance, and he ran and embraced him, full of compassion, kissed him, asked the servants to put the best robes, the clothes, the ring, shoes on his feet. Even as the son said, "Forgive me, for I've sinned against heaven and against you," the father doesn't question him saying, "See what I told you," or he doesn't say, "You should have known better. What did you squander all of it on?" None of that. The father loves his son. That is how God loves you and me. When we turn to God, we do not turn to God in fear, but rather we can have absolute confidence that our Father longs for you and me, then we ourselves want to be satisfied. From Saint Therese of Lisieux, she said, "I feel that even if I had on my conscience every crime one could commit, I should lose nothing of my confidence. My heart broken with sorrow, I would throw myself into the arms of my Savior. I know that He loves the prodigal son. I have heard His words to Saint Mary Magdalene, to the women taken in adultery, and to the women of Samaria. No one could frighten me, for I know what to believe concerning His mercy and His love. And I know that all that multitude of sins would disappear in an instant, even as a drop of water cast into a flaming furnace." You see, Saint Therese of Lisieux had absolute confidence in the mercy of God, that even the worst of sinners can have confidence in God, just like we heard in the parable. In the book of Romans chapter 5 verse 20, it says, "Where sin increased, grace abounded all the more." Rudolf Hess was a commandant of Auschwitz, and he himself was responsible personally for putting to death over 2.5 million people, and another 500,000 died from starvation or disease during his tenure. So this is a man who was absolutely merciless and did not give any regard for his fellow human beings. After the Nazis had lost, they captured him, and he was to be hanged. But before that, he was going to be put into prison. Now, Rudolf Hess wasn't afraid of death, being the cold, stone-hearted man he was, but he was afraid of being in prison, in the presence of those soldiers whose wives, children, and families he himself was responsible for killing, brutally and mercilessly. But to his surprise, in the prison, the guards treated him with kindness. Rudolf Hess said, I have to confess that I never would have expected to be treated so decently and so kindly in a Polish prison." Seeing the way the guards treated him, his heart of stone melted, and it changed. On April 4th, 1947, which was Good Friday that year, he asked that a priest might hear his confession. It was tough to find a priest, knowing that this was the person who had executed many. But Father Władysław in Poland, where he was serving as chaplain in the Shrine of Divine Mercy, came to hear his confession, and after a very long confession, gave him absolution. Absolution is forgiveness through the church by the price paid by Jesus on the cross. And he was absolutely forgiven. The next day, according to the guards, Hess appeared as a small boy as he received Holy Communion, kneeling and weeping in his prison cell. Holy Communion is the body, blood, and soul and divinity of Jesus Christ. And this man, stone cold, was on his knees weeping. The former SS commandant, trained to conceal every sign of weakness, openly wept in front of others. This very man who put millions to death, not a tear shed, was weeping, seeing the mercy of God. God's abundant mercy is for each one of us, and we're all sinners of varying degrees. Pride, lust, jealousy, anger, fame, fortune, pleasure, all of it abused, like the property abused by the younger son. Reading from the book of Ephesians chapter 2 verses 4 to 5, it says, "But God, who is rich in mercy, because of the great love he had for us, even when we were dead in our transgressions, brought us to life with Christ." This is the mercy of our Father, who loves us abundantly. St. John Chrysostom said, "Let no one mourn that he has fallen again and again, for forgiveness has risen from the grave."